Good morning and welcome to Safety and Innovation with Marks Commercial. I'm joined by Iain Summers, Vice President of Industrial Workwear, Industrial Footwear and Innovation at Marks. Morning, Iain.
Morning, Adam. Thanks very much. It's good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah, just want to introduce someone to the group. Luke Evdemon from the UK, and Luke is the head of global sales for VizLite DT, and Luke is joining us here to explain what I would call a bit of a fascinating technology. It's something that has been in play for several years now, but seems to be, in my opinion, unknown to the Canadian work industry. And I'm hoping that Luke can shed some light on and educate some people with their fantastic products. So Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Iain. It's good to join you and the team at Marks today to discuss VizLite DT. So I appreciate the opportunity. I do. Just a little bit about myself, I suppose. I was thinking about this morning, and my passion for safety kind of came about by accident. I just left university, and whilst I was looking for a real job, I got a job in a warehouse packing boxes. And in those boxes were hi-vis vests. And I suppose it tweaks my interest, because fast forward by quite a few years and I ended up running probably one of the biggest technical clothing manufacturers in Europe for a number of years. But I think running along with that, I also got involved with the European Standards Committee that dealt with high visibility legislation. So I really became part of that process in terms of understanding what workers and what conditions they went through in terms of visual safety, and how we could impact by adopting and changing the standard to make people safer every single day. So that's how I got involved in it. And one of my suppliers at the time was a high visibility tape supplier. They make retroreflective silver tapes, and a very good job they did too, and they became my #1 principal supplier. But then the guy who's the owner of the business there, Nick Rowbottom, had come up with something else. He'd come up with this technology, which I'm going to discuss with you today, VizLite DT. So I want to show you that if I can. I've got a brief presentation. So what became clear to me pretty quickly when I saw this technology is that I was on a European committee called the EN 24/7 for high visibility. And you have similar standards in Canada, the CSA Z96, the Americans have ANSI 107, Australians have their standard. But really they talk about the same thing. They talk about visibility in light conditions. So what you've seen is a video there of a fluorescent jacket where the bright colours are there to be seen during daylight, or in this instance under floodlights. And the bright colours, the fluorescent colours. And that's underpinned in the standard. And then it talks about retroreflective technology. If you're in front of a train or a car, The silver stripes on the garments reflect light back to the oncoming traffic, etc. But there's many, many instances where people work in low light conditions. You know, you guys in Canada get as worse weather than us even, yeah? And I know that at 3 o'clock in the winter, it's pitch black over here. Yeah, you've got postal workers, you've got people doing rescue recovery, you've got people in all sorts of environments, highways, etc. You've got people working in railways at night time. Most of the work in railways is at night time because there's less trains traveling. The standards don't talk about people being seen in low light conditions. They only talk about you need sunlight or floodlights to be able to be seen. Seemed to be a bit of an oxymoron to me because it didn't cover an area where you could argue you need to be most seen, where it's low light. It's not even just for nighttime conditions. I mean, the more and more we've developed the technology and our customer base has grown, we've seen it operates in daylight conditions. If you think of somebody working in an airport, on the airport runway, you've got these huge juggernaut aeroplanes, huge things. They cast big shadows underneath them. And you've got operatives there loading the luggage, etc. And they're in low light conditions, but it's a bright sunny day. So there's many, many instances, and I'll go through some of those a little bit later, where I believed that the international standards didn't address it, and this new technology that I was introduced to did. So how does it work? Well, what really underpins its patent is, you know, and that's an important point, is before I joined the company, I wanted to know, it's a glow-in-the-dark product. So, okay, there's lots of glow-in-the-dark products. My child's got one, some on her bedroom wall. She's got little moons and stars that glow at night. So how could you patent a glow-in-the-dark product? Well, there's 73 points on the patent. And when I got to understand a little bit about it, I understand why it could be patented. And it really is about performance, yeah? It doesn't take 3 hours to charge and glows for 30 seconds. It's about extremely quick charge time and the longevity of the glow performance after it. So what we're saying is, on a sunny day or even a cloudy day, doesn't matter. 5 minutes charge will fully charge you for an 8-hour shift. At dawn or dusk, it takes a little bit longer, 8 minutes. And under any sort of station lights or office fluorescent lights, about 10 minutes to give you an 8-hour glow. Most working activity is not about working in the dark or the pitch black for 8 hours. Yeah, we just showed you a video there for people. You can think about people working on highways, etc. They're usually under some sort of floodlighting or lit areas. And when they walk away from that, the technology, you can see it glow because it's walked out of the highly lit area. And then when they walk back, it recharges. But there are instances where you might need a full 8 hours glow, where you don't have an external light source at all for 8 hours. And one of those I can think of right now would be something like safety at sea, which is another market for us, which is if somebody goes overboard and they have a life vest on, the technology will continue to glow and you can see them. And you don't need a torch to be able to find them, which is the current standard and the current products that are out there. That's what you'll need. That's very difficult to find somebody with a torch when you don't know where they are. So the charging time is really, really important. One of our biggest markets, if not the biggest market that we have, is for firefighting. Firefighters get dressed in under 2 minutes. The average in the UK is 1 minute 37 seconds. That product needs to charge in that small period of time in order to get them through a firefighting situation. So really, this is what underpins VizLite DT, is performance, 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 quick charge and slow release of the glow. So some of the market sectors, well, Iain can talk about these, I'm sure. Yeah, if you think about the CTC group and all the markets you operate in, we supply into forestry, general hi-vis, police, arc protection, hunting, anti-static. Hunting was a new one for me because I thought you needed camouflage. but I actually found out you need hi-vis as well, because hunters don't like to shoot each other by accident. Fishing, offshore, oil and gas, the list goes on and on and on and on. And we're working on many of these projects with marks. Some of those I'll just detail for you. So we've come out with a range of high visibility garments that incorporate VizLite DT. Marks were the first in the world to come out with a range on footwear, and I'm pleased to say that the next development for stage 2 with more VizLite DT on footwear is coming out shortly in 2021. Also in Mark stores are a range of pet care, and we're also working on a project for self-adhesive, which will be able to go on lots of different things. And that was another initiative by Marks, and can be applied onto, we're looking at sportswear, ski wear, lots of different things, objects that may be lost in the dark and you need to find. So it's important, if you think about it, we put it on a range of hard hats here. So you don't lose your hard hat at night. That's great. And people can see where you are. And that's great too. But it's not just the cost of losing something at night time or in a low light condition and having to replace it, but where have you left it? If you're working on a busy road or a busy railway, etc., and if you don't know where you've left your tool, for example, have you left it in a dangerous area? Well, by applying VizLite DT in this application, we believe can save lives in a different way also. So that's just a brief snapshot of a pared down 78 slide version of the technology. Hopefully it's giving you a little bit of background in terms of what the technology does and the markets that we're operating in.
Thanks for that, Luke. It was quite interesting when we started to apply it to safety footwear, because I never realized how beneficial it can be when you can actually see your feet in the dark. When you think about it, it doesn't really make sense, because you think about, well, I'm shining a light in front of me or doing whatever, but it's quite surprising how beneficial that technology was when we applied it into safety footwear. I didn't think at first that it, I thought it would be just a bit more of a safety feature, but I didn't realize how beneficial it could be in knowing where your feet are. And, we had talked over the years about this technology and all the places that you can put it. And there's so many industries in Canada and that could benefit from this technology. And had a conversation a while back with one of the railroad companies in Canada, and talking about how much their men are working around trains and how many times they're actually in the dark and no one can actually see them. And then the length of the trains from one end to the other, and understanding where somebody might be through the length of the train as it's stationary. And the other one that they mentioned was the loss of tools. Yeah. And how, as you pointed out, it's easy, if you have a flashlight, it's easy to go and try and find something, but if you don't know where to look, it can be extremely hard, even though you have a flashlight, right?
That's the whole point, yeah. I mean, go ahead. Carry on. No, I actually did a bit of a study on the UK railways. In order for me to work, and I use the term loosely work because I was observing trackside at night, I had to go for 2 days training and get my certificate, my PTS certificate. And I went out and did some trackside observations of how they worked, and it was very, very interesting to me. They did work under some floodlighting in some area, but also some of the gangs would go up the tracks in ones or twos, just with a torch looking forward and repairing and tightening bolts, etc. And the interesting thing for me was not so much that a train could see them, because the train would have lights and would have reflectivity on the garments. But when a train was coming, it was to make sure that the lookout knew that all of the guys and the girls were off the track. So he knew he had 6 operatives out with him. Train was coming, he would blow his whistle, and he could see in an instant that everybody had heard him and were off the tracks because he could see it visually with his eyes. He didn't have to go around with a torch to make sure everybody had seen him. So that had its revelations really for the UK railways. I'm glad to say we've started supplying them. Yeah.
You know, I worked construction for years, and throughout those years, the odd time you'd have to work in the evening if you're double shifting or large pours of concrete that took many hours. And one of the things that was always a concern is the overhead cranes had their lights, but their lights would come down and they would be at an angle and try to make as much area as bright as possible. But you could never see the people on the outside of the light at night. You had no idea where they were. And in some cases, became very dangerous when you're swinging a load and you're bringing it, you're swinging with it and you have the lights on it, but you can't see where you're actually going. And you can't tell if there's anybody working in that area until it's too late, until the lights shine on them and then you see the hi-vis. But with VizLite DT, it takes all of that away and removes danger because you can see those people working. You mentioned the airports, and you think about all the people that are on that tarmac and that are not anywhere underneath a light at night. You'd be able to spot all of those people. It's a technology that ever since I bumped into you 4+ years ago, and we came back from Europe and said we got to get this into some product right away because of its huge benefits. It's never without its challenges when you're trying to line up with CSA and all the other regulations and make the tape work. But it's I think that our buying team has done a great job in pulling some items together. I think we've only just tapped the abilities and the products and the usage of VizLite DT. I think we have lots of potential in front of us, and I was thinking, I was telling somebody just the other day that I was driving down the highway and it was dusk and there was somebody pulled over. There was a tow truck there. The tow truck driver had hi-vis on. The vehicle occupant, when he was out of the car, did not. And they were trying to set stuff up to make themselves visible. But you could tell that unless the lights hit them, they weren't going to be visible. And it's amazing how many people we actually put in danger in industries around the world, but in particular in Canada. I just think that this product could be so beneficial to so many companies and hopefully save lives.
Well, we believe it is. I mean, if you think about why do we have high visibility in the first place? And you make some great points there, Iain. High visibility is there because it is believed and it is internationally recognized that by improving people's visibility, it improves their safety. If it improves their safety, there's less risk. It mitigates risk to them. So then you would look at VizLite DT and ask the question, well, by adding this technology, does it improve somebody's visual safety in all light conditions? Yes or no? If it does it, if you believe it improves the conditions and it improves the visibility of conditions, it improves the safety. That means less people will be injured and potentially it can save lives. You know, this product is now, we're clothing hundreds of thousands of workers globally. They didn't wait for the standards to change. The standards need to catch up, and that's what I'm an evangelist about myself, yeah? You know, my vision is that, first of all, there's no international standard for phosphorescence, which is glow-in-the-dark technology, to go on to personal protective equipment. That's the first thing. It really needs to be about a performance standard to make sure that a wearer is getting good protection by glow-in-the-dark technology. That's the first thing. And the second thing, for international high visibility standards to catch up and to talk about people being seen in all light conditions, because when it's dark or the lights are low, people need to be seen arguably even more. And that's one thing I believe that should be changed. And that's what I'm an evangelist about. And if I had a 5-year plan, that's what I want to do, because if it becomes part of the standard, it's not just about our technology. We will have rival technologies, I imagine, but it will say that, look, phosphorescent technology adds a value. It can increase people's safety and ultimately reduce risk in the workplace. And that's what we're all about. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it's the point you make about hi-vis and the regulations. Really, the fact that you have to have light in order to be able to be seen is it's quite a challenge that we're dealing with. Do you think that that there will be an industry that will mandate this prior to regulations changing, so that you have to be visible in the dark without light?
Well, great point you're making there, and it has been difficult because there's no international standard says that you have to have it. But what we've got as local fire authorities that are specifying it now in tenders, because guess what? Firefighters go into situations where it's dark, where the electrics aren't working, or where it's nighttime, or it's filled with smoke. And they've started mandating the technology in some of the contracts. And I'm pleased to say today that over 80,000 firefighters are wearing VizLite DT globally to better protect themselves, so they can be seen if there's an accident for themselves, but also if somebody's being rescued, they can see a firefighter quicker. In a situation where every second counts, and high visibility is that situation, every single second counts, it's making a difference. Yeah, it's improving safety, and we believe it's saving lives.
Sorry, how many firefighters did you say are wearing VizLite?
80,000 firefighters globally, and that's been specified. We want it to be specified for railway workers, for police officers, for construction workers, for every marketplace that needs high visibility. Mm-hmm. Because if it does get specified, if the technology talks about glow in the dark, if their standard operating practice includes glow in the dark technology, it will improve their safety, no doubt. So that's what we're hoping to do, and that's what we're working very, very hard to do that. But companies are not waiting for standards to change. They're making the decisions because they want to improve their worker safety today.
Do you think, is there any movement for firefighters association, like globally, to kind of unite and mandate that all equipment has to have glow in the dark?
Well, we have to do that through our work with the standards committees, yeah, and they bring in organisations like the fire organisations, railway industry associations, traffic management, highways associations, and they funnel information through and get information back from them. And what we're hoping is that the groundswell, first of all, our discussions with the committee, but also the groundswell of the people that are using the product and seeing the visible, to excuse the pun, advantages, safety advantages it offers, will make some changes in the standards committees. In Europe, they're already looking at it and looking at the specific instances of low visibility in dark and no light conditions. So what we're hoping, it opens it up to other technologies to be able to offer wearer visibility in these areas. So we're hoping it will change, and we're hoping it will change in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I know in Canada for years we had provincial regulations for high vis, and it wasn't until just recently where we have more of a national standard now. But that took decades for that to change. And hopefully hopefully we can make people more aware of this product. And I think in lots of times, it's about the industry that moves forward first. And then generally speaking, the regulations catch up to it. I know that in quite a few areas that we work in, that seems to be the practice. So it'd be great, if we can, through Mark's Commercial and through support from yourself, if we can reach out to these other industries in Canada and lobby to get them to introduce the product. At the very, very least, try the product out, because I think in this case, seeing is believing, and it really is. It really is the truth,
It's been an interesting and difficult road, and really because you're approaching the market without it being prescribed as something that you have to have. So it really is about breaking boundaries, but hasn't great innovation always been about that? And what feels good about this technology is it improves safety of individuals that go out and work on railways, that go and work on the roads, that protect and serve us, police officers, firefighters, We've just secured some big military contracts in the UK as well, because believe it or not, it's not all about camouflage for them. So it really is about evangelists at the beginning. And I have to say, Iain, you were the greatest evangelist of us. At the very beginning, when we were just showing the technology, we met at one of the shows, and I think you got it, and you could see what it meant to the Canadian market and the workers out there. And it really has been your work on behalf of Marks that has developed the technology into different product areas that are going to offer different benefits to the Canadian public. So we're really pleased about that, and very proud to work alongside you and your organisation to bring these benefits to the Canadian market.
This goes so much beyond the work industry as well. When you think about children being on the way home from school and different activities in the nighttime, you never have to. Some children go to school in the dark and come home in the dark, and we were working on a project, and you did complete that. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you did with Helly Hansen and the children's wear.
We've got 7 projects on the go with Helly Hansen. We've got some everything from urban wear, ski wear, workwear, footwear. Again, we've gone into sports footwear for Helly Hansen. So many projects that we're working on the go with them. We're very pleased to see. I've seen the store front designs. There's going to be major flagship promotions starting in Europe, and then hopefully going throughout North America in your region, showing VizLite DT technology and how that can actually impact by increasing worker safety in general, retail, urban clothing environments, etc. But we've got some serious projects as well, not just in retail, but also in workwear with them, and ocean wear, for example, for people on boats and ships and that sort of thing. So they've really understood the technology, they've understood the safety benefits, and that is going out globally in 2021. So we're very pleased to work with them, and the technology develops. For our next interview, we've got some really exciting new things to show you as well. So we've pushed the envelope again for new products that will be launching this year, and hopefully with Marks will be hitting the market in 2022. And that's some really exciting stuff, which again is game-changing technology using VizLite DT in a different way. So we'd like to share those with you.
The UK has quite a search and rescue organization for on the water, and I think it's a bit of a famous organization because of the seas that they're operating in. Are you supplying those workers and the? Go ahead.
So it's Helly Hansen. I actually supply the RNLI. It's the Royal National Lifeboat Institute, and we're working on a project with them. Yes, because we see the benefits to incorporate this technology, obviously in that environment. But we want to all of the search and rescue, whether it be land, sea, or air. We think visibility is important. If you think about it, I mean, it's not just about the worker, even though that's a hugely important part of it. But you know, Marks have come out with a pet care range for dog blankets, for example, dog coats, and that's yes, so you don't lose your dog in the park at night, but also that has a serious impacts in when we're talking about search and rescue. Search and rescue dogs in a earthquake environment, for example, they get to the person that needs to be rescued quicker than a human does. That's why we've got them. They can scent it out, they can hear, and they get to them in low light conditions or at night time or where there's smoke or dust. They get to the person that needs to be rescued quicker, and the handler knows where the dog is and can get to them. So,
you know, when you think of this, it's just like, you know, we have our Coast Guards, but then you think of not just the Coast Guards, but then you think of fishermen, and how many times are they in the dark? They leave in the dark, you know, out to set their net. Probably come home in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, you have to ask yourself, and I do. I mean, if you were overboard, would you rather have our technology on you or not?
I would prefer to have it on. Yeah.
You'd pay for it yourself, wouldn't you? You would, if you're a passenger, you'd to make sure that that technology was there. You would, because you don't want to be bobbing in the sea for 8 hours without somebody finding you.
Yeah.
You know. So, and it just has more and more and more. I mean, footwear, as I explained, we got into the safety footwear with Marks globally, that you were the first in footwear. Now that's on firefighting boots. It's on trainers. It's on sportswear, footwear. We're working with Marks on children's ski wear boots as well. So we've got a great project there to be launching in Canada in the not too distant future. So the different markets you can go into just seem to grow and grow and grow and grow, and the product areas we're involved in. So with safety is a key, but also, you know, for corporate identity. So it's not just about safety. It's about companies love seeing their names in lights. Yeah. And you can have a logo on there where it's not, they're not even in a hi-vis vest. Yeah. But people start talking about the logo and the company name because, hey, guess what? They've just walked in, and you can walk into an office environment where it's slightly darker than outside sunlight, and all of a sudden, the logo's glowing and people are talking about the brand. So it's great for people in terms of like developing the brand and pushing it forward and talking about the brand. And the technology used in logos is really, really great, and is a big part of our business now. Yeah. So
Luke, if I can ask you, you talked about early adopters. You talked about firefighters, and you talked about the railway industry. When you think about in Canada, there's two pretty obvious industries where this makes sense. There's the construction industry, which Iain alluded to earlier, and then the transportation industry. So what do you think has been the challenge with getting both of those industries to adopt, or at least to try the technology?
Well, the first challenge was it's not prescriptive. This technology it's not within any standard, so why would anybody look at it? Yeah, people have a mindset of if it's not within the standard, you know, these committees are run by, you know, technical, competent people. Yeah, it's not within the standard. Then is there a need for it? Obviously, there's an added cost to it as well. You're adding a cost to a garment. But what I like to talk about is value. It's a different value proposition. What does it offer to the wearer? What is the cost of that? Yeah. What is the cost of extra visibility in low light conditions? Well, it's increased safety. So the challenge was really getting people to understand that yes, it was innovative. Yes, it was non-prescriptive, but really it's it changes the safety of the wearer. So what we did for the fire market, as you mentioned it, I can talk about a little bit. What we did is we said, hey, we've got this great glow-in-the-dark product. We'd like to stick it on your fire jackets. So we had to make sure, first of all, it was legally compliant. It hit all of the correct flame retardant standards and everything, which we did. And then we went out to a fire authority, and you can see this, we've got a video of it, and we videoed some trials of firefighters working with the technology. And then we interviewed them, and we said, what did you think? And they said, we believe it can save lives. Yeah, if I can see my buddy through the smoke quicker, if somebody can see me when they're being rescued quicker in a situation where every second counts, we like it. And then, so as I've explained, you know, as far afield as Australia, we've got some huge contracts rolling out in Australia at the moment, throughout Asia, UK, we've just kitted out the military firefighters, the Ministry of Defence, they're called over here. We've kitted out the whole of Wales, the country, all of their firefighters with VizLite DT technology. We've got another 4 brigades came on board last week. More and more of them are seeing the advantages of being seen in low light conditions. For things like construction and highways and railways, we did similar things. We've conducted videos, which again, we can show and we can send out separately. They're also on our website, where we actually made garments and then we interviewed people and talked about their visual perception. Did they see each other easier in all of these different working environments? We got that feedback. We presented it to their companies, and interestingly, this is interesting, Adam. What we found is that the companies, because it's not prescriptive, you don't have to have it. So the companies that have bought the technology and that are supplying it to their workers on the garments, they find themselves working on work sites with workers that don't have the technology. And they're saying, why can't we be as well protected as these guys? Because I can see him in the dark and I can't see him. So I want that technology. So what that's happening is that is stimulating the demand for the products, because people can see it in action and want to be better protected. And I have to say, now we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years since the product came into inception. Every single customer, without exception, has reordered the product. So we don't believe this is a gimmick, an innovation just for a period of time. It's to develop a foundation for safety, which we're building upon.
Yeah, this is just the start, right? It will become a standard. I think you've found the place where it's most important to start, and if firefighters, because they are saving lives, and hopefully it saves their lives as well. But once it's established in that market, then it will start to move down. And like we discussed earlier, I don't think we'll have legislation in place before it actually starts to roll out. I think it will be on the move itself. And like you said, if somebody's working alongside somebody, and that trade or that role is wearing the product, and the guy working beside him is not, either because his company hasn't invested in it, or as a different trade they haven't invested in it, it'll be very short time before everybody's talking about it and asking for it, because the workers they've earned the right, they should demand the right to be safe and be seen in the conditions that they're working in. So I think lots of times innovation is a real challenge, and like you said, the early adapters or the pioneers are always the ones that have to continue to push forward until literally the light goes on and everybody gets the right idea, and away we go. Full of puns this morning, right?
You guys are both on your game this morning.
I think, cut you off. You were going to say something.
Sorry. No, I think, when you think about the firefighters and the paramedics and the first responders, I mean, that logically makes sense, right? But I think I'm hoping over time there's a groundswell inside of the construction industry, inside of the transportation industry, specifically people who put themselves at risk every single day being on the side of a highway, whether that's, you know, working on a tow truck or whether that's building a road. And I hope that there's a groundswell of people who either drive by and see people wearing it and are motivated to try it or motivated to purchase it.
Yeah.
But Luke, if you could have 15 seconds or 20 seconds with a health and safety manager inside of many of these organizations, what would you say to them?
I went to a meeting with the Met Police in the UK, and he said something very interesting to me, which I took on board. He said, and it was a very strange comment he made until he explained it. He said, "We can't be half pregnant with this." So I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, if we believe that our police officers need to be in high visibility to be better seen, then does this technology mean that they will be even better seen and therefore safer? If it does, we have to have it."
Yeah.
And that's the example that I could probably use. And we're using this in the UK railways and the UK highways and on the roads and construction, on hard hats, on boots, on high visibility gear, and use our example really that we've developed here to improve worker safety, because that's what it's about. The worker goes to work to do his job, whether it's to repair a road or a railway. Yeah, we need to look after them better. We need to keep them safe as much as we can, and the technology is there to improve their safety, to increase their chances of getting back home safe and in one piece every single day. And this technology is driving this growth throughout the world.
Hey, Adam, you were talking about construction and transportation. When you think about construction, think about how many times the job starts early morning, getting ready for a big pour, or ends late at night. And then think about the overhead cranes. And if every worker had VizLite on their hard hat, the overhead crane operators would be able to spot every worker below them, whether they had lights on them or not, you know. And when you think about that, it's just like, how could we not do that, right?
Yep.
How we've, you know, I remember when construction first started to adopt hi-vis, and it was kind of all over the place. And then the first people that had to have it were the swampers or the riggers, the guys on the ground that worked with the crane, because he had to be able to see where his guy was all the time, right? And when you think about that, you know, lobbying to get hard hats that have VizLite on them should be, you know, step number one right out of the gate, right? It's just, you think about how can we not? And so we've been talking to Luke about doing that. And then first, you know, you had to go through some testing to make sure that the adhesive in the material doesn't deteriorate or defect the hard hat in any way.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're past that now. And so, you know, getting a job site or certain companies to mandate that their employees have their VizLite on their hard hats, I think is a really good place to start. It's not that expensive, but it really sends out the message, right?
It's a powerful visual message. Yeah. It says a lot about the company as well, you know, in protecting their workforce. I mean, an interesting development that we've had in the last few months is actually the technology going on to masks. And I did ask the question about the value of it going on to masks, and it's not so much so that the person can be seen, even though at night time, anything to help a person to be seen would be good. But we've got, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but we've got a terrible situation with masks all over the floor in the UK, and it stops people losing them at night time. So we believe it's got advantages there. So we think in lots of different marketplaces for lots of different applications, it can add real value. Yeah.
I remember when I first met Luke and Nick, they gave me a little sticker to put on the back of my phone. Right, and so you can always find your phone at night. When you set it down, you always know where your phone is. The problem is the thing wouldn't go off, and I'd wake up in the night, and this when you're traveling, you know, you're in different time zones and everything else like that, and you got your phone nearby, but this glowing light, and so then I had to turn my phone upside down to keep the light from shining, and waking me up.
That's it.
But then it didn't work because I couldn't find my phone. But
What
the
we've
amazing
done
thing is that, you know, you can't turn this technology off at night, which is a good thing.
Yep.
When we were talking about the kids coming home in the dark, people say, well, it's not a problem because, you know, they have little flashing lights on them and they're wired up, but somebody has to turn it on. You have to make sure they turn that on. You don't have to turn this technology on. You don't have to do anything. When the minute it gets dark, it's on.
It's intuitive. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ian, and you make an important point. This technology uses sustainable energy. So it's light energy that's around us. Yeah. So it's sunlight that's outside. Yeah. It's for when they're in any working environment where an office light might be on, etc. So it uses that energy which is being used for a different reason and absorbs that. You can't see it working in a light condition because it's in an absorb phase. And as soon as you walk out of that fully lit condition and into a darker area, it knows to release. So it's intuitive in that way and it works independently. We've done accelerated testing on the pigments that we use, the special pigments, and it will continue to work for at least 20 years. Mm. So it doesn't diminish in performance. So as great as Mark's products are, what we're saying is that the life cycle expectancy won't be reduced by adding VizLite DT onto your technology. Right. Because the technology just keeps working and working and working by using sustainable and renewable energy. No batteries, no wires, no on or off switch. The worker, the wearer doesn't even have to think about it. It knows when it's dark because you can see it. And when it's not, then it's absorbing.
I think that's the magic inside of this, right? Is you don't have to think about it. And Ian mentioned children. I mean, think about how many crossing guards there are that work on crosswalks in front of schools every day, right? This technology has so many different opportunities. I mean, you know, Ian talked about the hard hats and the cranes. I personally cringe every time I drive by construction workers working on the side of the road because you just can't help but have that concern in the back of your mind. By having this technology, you take away the thought from the individual wearing it, and it's inherently there in the product. I think that is the magic inside of that.
I agree with you. I mean, if you think about hi-vis you were talking about, it's really, we shouldn't, in the ideal world, yeah, we shouldn't need high visibility. All our systems and practices should be so robust that nobody should be in front of that car, yeah, when it's going towards them. But it is there for a reason, yeah. We are human, and and the reality is, it is the last line of defense when that system or the process is broken down for whatever reason. And because it's the last line of defense, to increase its ability for an individual to be seen has to increase the safety. It just follows logically. As the last line of defense, it offers a safety solution that's not available, that is not being supplied anywhere else for any other products globally. So we do think it adds to high visibility. We do think it adds to safety, and several 100,000 workers would agree. but we need to get that up to several million, because and the work that we're doing with marks, and I'm sure will help to enable access into the Canadian market. And that's what we're talking about here, really. We're not talking about sales, even though I am a sales director, but it is about increasing safety. And this technology, that's exactly what it's all about.
Well, hopefully you taking the time, you and Iain taking the time to do this interview today will help kickstart this, if you will. I want to thank both of you for taking the time to join us. Looking forward, Luke, to having both you and Iain back on future episodes of Innovation and Safety. So thank both of you very much for taking the time out. Really appreciate it. And look forward to having you join us again shortly.